Welcome to Bible Time with Aunt Kat, where we talk about real people who we read about in God's Word, the Bible. All of His Word is true because God cannot lie. The Bible verses used today will be given at the end of the video. He was a spy, an explorer, a pioneer, a battle-fighting, mountain-climbing, giant-defeating, courageous man named Caleb. Caleb, Joshua, and 10 other men went to spy out the land that God had promised His people. The land was rich, and the food that grew there was huge. There were people living there that were giants, and 10 of the spies, when they returned, said, "They're giants and we're like grasshoppers. We can't take that land." Caleb and Joshua saw those same giants, but they said, "If God is pleased with us, He will give us that land. Don't be afraid of those people." Caleb knew that God was bigger than any giants. The people listened to the other 10 spies and wanted to return to Egypt. As punishment, all of those over the age of 20 were not allowed to go into the promised land except Caleb and Joshua. God promised Caleb some of the very land he explored because he followed God fully. For 40 years they wandered through the wilderness, and Caleb stayed faithful and strong. Finally, the day came when it was time to divide the land. Moses had died and Joshua was the leader. Caleb reminded Joshua that God had promised him the land where he had explored, and he said in Joshua 14, verse 10 and 12, "Here I am this day, 85 years old. As yet I am as strong this day as on the day that Moses sent me. Just as my strength was then, so now is my strength for war, both for going out and for coming in. Now, therefore, give me this mountain." Wow. He said he knew there were giants and mighty walled cities, but he said, "If the Lord is with me, I shall be able to drive them out, as the Lord said." And He did. Wow, what courage. Here is an 85-year-old man, and he's asking for a mountain. Now that's a pioneer spirit, and not a vacation mountain where he can take it easy, but a mountain of giants behind walled cities. Where did Caleb's courage come from? How was he able to stand up against the other spies and all the Israelites who were afraid to take the land God had promised? They even wanted to stone him and Joshua. How was he able to hold on to that promise from God for 45 years? How was he able to have the courage to ask for a mountain at 85 years, and a mountain of giants at that? The 10 spies did not have courage because they looked at their problems. Caleb had courage because he looked at God and what God could do. He had seen God part the Red Sea. He had seen the pillar of cloud by day and the fire by night. He'd seen the manna that God had sent daily from heaven to feed them, and so many other things. He knew mountains and giants were no match for God. He wasn't afraid to say what he believed, even if it was unpopular. God's promises gave him courage. He said in Numbers 14, verse 8, "If the Lord delights in us, then He will bring us into this land and give it to us." Caleb had the courage to ask for the mountain because he trusted in God and had confidence in God, not in himself. He trusted in God's strength, not his own. So, when we're in a situation where we need courage, let's remember not to look at the problem, but to ask God for help. When we need to speak up and are a little bit afraid, let's remember that God is with us just like he was with Caleb. When we face something that's bigger than us, let's think of Caleb and don't be afraid to ask for that mountain. Don't let fear get in the way of what God has for you to do. So I've got a little bit of an object lesson that I'm going to share with you. Let me scoot this over to the side and scoot this over here. And as you see, I have 2 bottles here, and these bottles represent us. Now, this bottle, I've got some water in, and we're going to put a little bit of dish liquid in. And just like that. And we are going to shake. Ooh, boy, that made a lot of bubbles, didn't it? It's really bubbling up. Now this one, we're going to do the same thing with just one difference. We're going to put dish liquid in. And we're going to add some courage, which is really salt. But we're going to put some courage in. About like that. And we're going to shake it. Oops, I don't have the lid on good and tight. Okay, let me move that out of the way. Look at the difference there. Look at that. Okay. Now, we're going to take this bottle. When we get overwhelmed and shook up with fear, fear can just bubble up out of us. Look at that. Fear's just bubbling up out of us. And see, we get overwhelmed because we forget to ask God for courage. But remember this one? We put the salt in for courage because we asked God for courage. And let's see what happens. Look at that. Look at that. There's no bubbles in there because we remembered to trust God. If we trust God and stay calm and just trust that God will help us, just like he did Caleb, he will never let us down. Our courage, or our salt, our courage kept the fear from filling the bottle up. And that's what it was. It wasn't our power. It was the courage that God gives us that keeps us strong when things happen. So we are going to learn our memory verse. And it is Psalm 31:24. Be strong and let your heart take courage, all you who hope in the Lord. Psalm 31:24. Let's say it again. Be strong and let your heart take courage, all you who hope in the Lord. Psalm 31:24. I'm going to get a sip of water, and then we are going to sing this to the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Be strong and let your heart take courage. Oh, you who hope in the Lord. Psalm 31:24. I hope I can do a better job the second time. I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. Be strong and let your heart take courage. All you who hope in the Lord. Psalm 31:24. One more time. Be strong and let your heart take courage. All you who hope in the Lord. Psalm 31:24. Got it? Good. Today's scriptures were Numbers chapter 31 and chapter 14 through chapter 14 verse 38 and Joshua 14 verse 6 through 15. Next week, another request from a young viewer, being a peacemaker. And don't forget to make your own Bible time every day.